Success can be defined as getting up one more time after you've been knocked down over and over and over and over again. I'm T.Wood, and this is Triumphant Moments, where we highlight all of life's challenges, what's beyond the surface, to inspire, to inform, or encourage people to triumph over life's challenges. Let's go.
With me today, technically, this brother, my brother, does not necessarily need an introduction. We're all familiar about his love and passion for advocacy and how he seeks to press forward and help everyone. Mr. Benjamin Crump, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, T.
Good to see you.
Honored to be on your program.
Appreciate it. So I'm sure it's been pretty much a busy day. I'm sure it's been already. I'm sure it's been pretty much a busy day. Did you get a chance to get in and get some things done? Necessarily today already before you got here, or?
I got in and went and gave a couple of speeches as I did a beeline to you, brother. I wanted to be here with you. I know we've been talking about the opportunity to just chop it up, and so I'm happy to finally get this day here.
Oh, man. Look, let's dive right on into it. So let's think back. You are the oldest of 9 children, born and raised in North Carolina. Is it safe to assume that you are automatically assuming the leadership position amongst them, or sometimes siblings like to step out there and be the leader if they're not necessarily the oldest? How did that work out?
Life is interesting. I was a product of a single mother household.
Wow.
So my mother raised me and my 2 little brothers, and everything I am is because of my mother. She just sacrificed so much for her children, and I'm sure that's the story with many people, but I always like to say to anybody who's listening, everything I am is because of Helen Crump.
Wow.
And so then I had those 2 little brothers and my stepfather, who is the person who actually I call Dad.
Wow.
He has 5 other children, and then my biological father has 3 other children.
Wow.
And so, it is a big tribe.
Come on.
And they all, I don't know what it is about leadership. The old saying that you walk in the room, the leader never has to identify themselves.
Come on now.
Everybody else will identify the leader, and that's how it was with my siblings. A lot of them followed me and went to Florida State University because I went to Florida State University.
Right.
A lot of them pledged Omega Psi Phi because I pledged Omega Psi Phi.
Great fraternity, by the way, wouldn't you say?
The greatest fraternity.
Come on.
And then, it's one of those things that when they need advice or anything, they always still call. So I don't know how it happened, honestly, other than what I just told you. People identify who the leaders are without you having to say much.
Wow. And see, you literally just harped on my next question. So with me, my mother, growing up down in Gainesville, Florida, I'm a Southern boy, country boy here.
Same here.
See, okay. Growing up, she really planted an attitude in me to just never give up. And I've done it on so many things that I didn't necessarily succeed at. It's bestowed in me. I can't give up. I put my head down sometimes and I just keep pressing forward. Everyone has watched you on a major stage show a work ethic, show a drive, and show a straight up fire to press forward. So the question raises, who in your upbringing or in your family bestowed that fire in you to press forward like that?
Oh, man. I have so many examples in my family of people who just perform miracles every day. And I don't think my mother and my grandmother, who are the most important people in my life, my grandmother's not in heaven. Thank God my mother's still here.
Condolences.
But, I think like most black women, they just perform miracles every day. They were miracle workers. I'm sure like your mother was.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, finding a way out of no way, doing the most with the least. And my mother, she indoctrinated me, man. And, you think back about it now, you say, hey, she was being a psychologist really without no degree.
Come on.
My mother used to tell me, and I watched her work those 2 jobs every day. I mean, she never took a day off, and so I have no excuse to, take days off or to say, woes is me. She never really complained. All she ever said to you was, baby, life ain't fair. Life is hard. And she would always say that, life ain't fair, life is hard. You make it fair by what you bring to the table. If you don't bring nothing to the table, don't expect nobody to let you sit down at the table. And that's my mentality to this day. I don't expect anything from anybody. I know we gotta work hard to bring something to the table.
Right.
And so when you say about your mother, just always finding a way, you can't give up and everything.
Right.
I'm thinking my mom, from when I was 6, 7 years old, saying, no, the reason you ain't at the table is because you got to bring the right thing to the table to sit down at the table. I do that at everything, even in my profession, like everything. I'm thinking about Helen Crump saying that there, and then my grandmother, Mitty Cardell, only had an 8th grade education. We grew up in Lumberton, North Carolina.
Come on, man.
Still, with that 8th grade education, man, the wisest person I ever met on this earth. I mean, I'm talking about PhD. Think about all the people I've met in my life.
Right.
I still think nobody is wiser than my grandmother, Mitty Cardell. She just had that common sense that was like that of King Solomon. And my grandmother, she would always say about black people, she would always say, we have to remember we've done so much for so many for so long that we qualified to do practically anything with nothing. And she was always say that there. And so I kind of said, ain't no reason if they could do it with having, far less
than us. Come on.
We can't offer no excuses.
Come on.
So I just go every day and say, no matter how challenging it may be,
right.
I know my grandparents had it far harder than me. My Uncle Jesse, God bless him, he's been dead now for 2 years.
2 years, wow. And, condolences.
Yeah, man. Uncle JB, when I would go to make, of course, I'm a devout man, when I go make arguments in court and everything, he would always give me scriptures to talk to the jury about and to relate. And so what I'm saying is all those individuals have instilled in me attitude that I won't complain.
My goodness.
I won't complain. You know how the Christians,
yes,
the spiritual, I won't complain.
See, that plugs that. And see, so as that is a reminder, knowing that and taking a step back from everything that you do. One thing, I work in the mental health field. So one thing that we highlight working in the mental health field is the term and the word self-care. So if you take time to think about it, what does Benjamin Crump, what makes you smile outside of what you do in the political arena and all the good that you do for everybody? What about Benjamin Crump? What things make you smile that you enjoy doing when you're not pressing forward on that, when you have a little break?
Yeah, that's real.
Right.
But now, family obviously is important to me. And you think about your children. I know you have a son
here.
Hope for the future, and that motivates me in ways when I'm not having to worry about anything. I literally, Brooklyn is my 7-year-old boss. And she has this picture here, and it's her, what's an original costume? She's a pumpkin. And you see it's flattened out. In the next picture, she puts stuff in the shirt.
Come on, man.
So that little girl, man, she is somebody who, no matter what I'm doing, if I need any kind of mental break, and I don't know if you're saying, he probably better than my little 7-year-old daughter. I don't know how she got this cell phone against all my denials of her
suggestions
before she was 10 years old. I don't know if she called my wife or her auntie or what have you, but she somebody got a cell phone. And Brooklyn I get these random texts and FaceTime calls throughout the day.
Oh man, come on.
Little girl, you're supposed to be in class.
What you doing?
I know it's COVID and you at home, but you're supposed to be in class. And so that's a good mental break for me, that in and of itself. Talking to my frat brothers and friends and that kind of thing. But then the other thing I do, and it's always been a passion of mine, is I write. I love to write and tell stories. And I guess it's, in many ways, what we do in court, too. You tell stories. Stories are inspiration on so many levels, even when you think about the Bible. And it's a combination of good stories.
Come on, bro.
And so I write those things, and that, if I ever did get a break, I'm doing a lot of stuff in Hollywood and productions and so forth. If I ever get a break, I don't know if that's ever going to be. I will write more stories. I'll be on planes writing and thinking about things. And, it's so funny, man. I'm on planes so much, it has become like a little thing. I get my best sleep on planes.
I was about to ask you.
I write my stories on planes.
See, now that's where the creative juices come right there then.
Because that's the one time you can't do nothing else.
No, you stay.
Yeah, you right there. So especially when I'm going by coast from LA to Florida, New York or whatever, you on there and you got like 3 or 4 hours uninterrupted. And that's one thing with me, too. Some people don't like to be by themselves. I be like, no. If I'm by myself,
let's
go. Get stuff.
Come on, man. Let's go. See, it's funny you say that, because pulling back on what was the title to it, you wrote. And thinking back, you wrote like a one-page novelty.
Yeah, one-page novel.
Man, could you please tell us more about that?
Yeah.
Come on.
And I'm going to go back and get that published before I die. I'm going to do that because that's great therapy. I came up with this concept. I was a minor in English, and one of the things we did, a lot of the marginalized children, the impoverished young people, you heard about that divide that was going on, that they weren't reading on their levels and everything. So when I was in college, I was always passionate about trying to lift as we climb.
Ooh, know all about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Know all about it.
The Omegas taught us that well. And so in that vein, I said, how can we get young people into reading more? And they always would say they don't have enough time and all that stuff. And I was learning in English and literature classes about the elements of a novel. And so I said, what if you could come up with a way to put it on one page, create like a new art form, like a sonnet, like the sonnet.
Right.
And so I started doing these one-page novels where you had all the elements of a novel. You had the introduction, you had the plot, you had the characterization, you had the protagonist and antagonist, and then you had the climax, and then you had the ending. Right. It all had to be in that one page.
Come on now. Do you know how much information you just said? You were able to squeeze all of that. So you had to be somewhat directly to the point. Like what created you? What motivated you to get there and do it? To get to that point, that's not easy.
Yeah, and it was a challenge, and I always like to try to challenge ourselves to be great, no matter what. And I'm a student of history, so you look at stuff, and you think when you read about, Shakespeare and Waldo and Emerson, all those great writers, and created this great literature. You think about, they always had techniques and styles.
They did.
And so the technique of a great novelist was make sure you had those elements, and they taught us, and it's the same with law. Brevity is a premium. How use the fewest words. Try to use the fewest words you can to make your point.
Right.
And you will be amazed at how much you can keep people's attention if you just be brief, my brother, be brief.
Wow.
And so with those one-page novels, we got in there, and you got to, I know one of them we did called How to Live Forever was about George Washington Carver.
Come on, man.
And my grandmother, the story started off, my grandmother, she would have a switch every day when we got home from school.
What you know about that?
Yeah. My mother was working all the time, but my grandmother, who kept all her grandchildren, my mother had 10 brothers and sisters. But my grandmother would have that switch every day, T, and she would say to every grandchild she had, you better tell me one thing you learned in that schoolhouse today.
Oh, that's reinforcements right there. Come on now.
You knew you were going to school. You were going to have one thing.
Come on.
We were going to use that switch to employ the importance of you not forgetting tomorrow to have one thing. And so I started the novel off like that, and I said, but today she didn't need to use that switch, because I told her we learned about a great plant doctor, a man named Dr. George Washington Carver, who helped change the whole economy of America with creating his advances in agriculture.
Come on, man.
He did this thing, these inventions with the peanut and the sweet potato, and this thing that they still use today called crop rotation. And I wrote it from a little boy's perspective, telling his grandmother. And I said everybody acknowledged him as a great man. And then his grandmother interacted, because you got to have dialogue. She said he was a heap of a great man. And I said, in fact, Grandma, they told us that he even, my grandmother said he even turned down $1 million. And, we said $1 million.
I'm waiting on you. Yeah.
This was back in, the 1920s and 1930s when him and Booker T. Washington was at the Tuskegee Institute. And it was a man named Thomas Edison who wanted to have this great inventor, George Washington Carver, come and work for his company, GE. And it was very attractive, but what I said was more profound is the reason why George Washington Carver turned him down, turned the $1 million down.
That's more powerful than just...
Yeah, and so what George Washington Carver said, as I put in the one-page novel entitled How to Live Forever, he said, Mr. Edison, chances are if I take your offer of $1 million, I would die a very rich man. He said, but you see, if I stay here with these children, have you ever observed the life cycle of a plant? It grows from an infant sprout, and it gets its sun and water and the rays, and it grows up and becomes an adult, and it lives the full life cycle. And then at the end of its life cycle, it withers up back in the ground, and its nutrients and elements that are in the plant then go back and cultivate the soil and help the new plants come up. And he says, so in essence, the plant never dies. So you see, if I stay here at the Tuskegee Institute and continue to educate these new sprouts like the plants, I'll live forever.
Come on, man. Come on now. Come on now. Jewel alert. That's a jewel alert. You're going to hear a lot of gems and jewels being dropped on here. See, when you take a look at that, Florida State University. We're in Tallahassee, Florida. Florida State University, home of the Seminoles.
We're having some challenges now.
Go Gators. So out of any college that you chose or had an opportunity to choose, Something had to stand out about the situation. Was it demographic? Like, what made you choose Florida State?
Right on the nose, Frat.
See?
I wanted to go growing up in North Carolina, and I then went to high school in Fort Lauderdale with my dad, my stepdad, but I call Dad, and my mother, God bless her. She made a decision, one of the most unselfish decisions a mother could ever make. And it's the Boys in the Hood scene, where she made the decision that boy needed a man to teach him how to be a man.
Come on, man.
And so forth. So she wanted me to have more opportunities in life. And in rural Lumberton, North Carolina, it was very limited.
Sacrifice.
So she broke her heart. She let me go when I was in the 9th grade, and I went to high school in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And what happened was, my mother, obviously, we were poor, and I wanted to go to University of North Carolina, or Morehouse, or Howard. Those were going to be my choices. And
look at here. You heard it here.
And what happened to man? Out-of-state tuition, you saw how much it cost there. We being poor. So I got this scholarship from the Miami Herald called the Silver Knight Scholarship, where they would pay for your tuition, because I was in journalism in high school. And one of the stipulations was you had to stay in the state of Florida. Hey, T, you want to do something funny?
Come on, man.
You talking about my mental health? This is Brooklyn.
Come on, man.
Put on here right quick. Hey, baby.
Hi, Daddy. I want to see you.
Baby, I promise I'm trying to get to you. I'm in Tallahassee now. I'm home. I'm doing an interview. And when I finish the interview, I'm going to come and look at your Halloween costume.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I miss you.
Miss you too.
I love you.
Love you too.
I love you more.
I do.
No, I do.
I do.
I love you 100 times.
I love you infinity times and beyond.
She won.
Infinity and beyond. Okay. I'm going to let you win this one. I'll see you soon.
See?
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Mwah. All right.
Speaking of motivation, come on, man.
And my baby, before I go to answer your question, I got to Florida State. My baby's a little lawyer in the training. When she called me and she said, "Daddy, I miss you. When you coming home?" I say, "I'm coming home soon." Brooklyn say, "No, Daddy. When are you coming home specifically?"
Bro, that's not gonna be enough. Hey, she said, "Nope, that's not enough." I know enough. Nope, give me a specific time. What day? Come on, man.
So I apologize for that.
Oh nah, come on.
So T, out-of-state tuition was a lot.
Yeah.
I got the scholarship from Miami Herald, so you had to stay in the state of Florida. They paid, a certain amount of money, I think it was at the time.
I was about to say at the time.
Yeah, it was like $3,000 a year, and I think tuition. This is 1987. Tuition was maybe $10,000 a year or something.
Man, come on.
Today, no, it was less than that, man. Tuition was like $7,500 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was in 87.
We're not dating, we're not dating. It's just.
And it has increased every year. I just found out, man, tuition now for state-supported institutions, 4 years is like $40,000.
Come on, man.
And I'm like, we went, it was like, the whole year was like, no, I'm wrong. I am so wrong, man. Tuition is $40,000 a day. Back in the day, tuition was about $10,000.
$10,000 a semester, or are we talking like a year?
No, I'm talking about the process. State education was $10,000 to $12,000.
Dang.
And now it's creeped up to $40,000.
You see that jump?
Yeah. So I think that $3,000 pretty much would pay for my semester. There was 2 to possibly 3 semesters per year when you were in college if you went fall, spring, and summer.
And summer.
And so what happened, man,
Shoot.
I came up to, we went on the college tour with the Deltas in high school, went to all the historically black colleges and universities.
Shouts out to the Deltas.
Yeah, they was trying to, help, and a lot of us was first generation, college potential students.
Right.
And they would take us on the bus, and I don't remember them charging us much money neither, so it was really shout out to the Deltas trying to do their service to the community. And I came to FAMU, man, oh man. Florida A&M University, baby. I saw the most beautiful little girls I ever saw in my life.
Hey, man. Sits on the highest hill.
Yeah, and so and one of my good friends, Rodney Sanders, ended up pledging capital, but one of my best friends from high school was a year ahead of me. And how I got to Florida State, quite literally, was Rodney Sanders and Roger Morgan both came to FAMU, and
around the same time.
Same year, a year before me.
Oh wow!
1 year before me.
Okay.
And unfortunately, something happened with financial aid, and Roger family couldn't afford to pay, and so forth. So he came back home, and so I wanted to be in FAMU in Tallahassee and be up here. But then Florida State gave me a scholarship too,
Had to get that.
to match the Miami Herald, and I said, man, family offered me no scholarship.
Oh man!
And I guess I'm going to Florida State. My decision was made for me, and but it was the best decision. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I ended up becoming president of the Black Student Union, president of the Student Senate, president of Omega Psi. It was just tremendous for my growth as a person. My college experience, the best time of my life, hands down.
See, in knowing that, so now we kind of turn a corner. So if you just take a pause and just think about it, has there ever been anything in your life that Brother Benjamin Crump versus Benjamin Crump, the attorney, that you had to overcome outside of the political ring and things of that such and being attorneys? There's something with you that you've ever had to overcome in your life when you sit back and you just take a second to think about it, no matter what it is. I don't care how big, how small,
I always try to improve daily. You're always your hardest critic.
Oh man.
One of the things, coming from the country, you have this country accent.
Oh.
And so I'm constantly trying to pronounce my words and enunciate fully.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So that was one of the things when I went to Fort Lauderdale, they used to call me North Kakalaka. And shout out to them in Broward County.
Oh yeah.
A lot of who I am, they help influence. Every part of your life influences who you are. But those guys, man, my basketball team, obviously, the statistics all played out and that kind of thing. I think only 2 of us went to college, but we were a close-knit group. But they always said, man, you going to college, you can't go hang where we hang at.
Dang.
Your life is going to have a brighter future. And so that there, and then I think they're joking with me, calling me North Kakalaka, but they saw something in you that said, yeah, you're going to be significant in life. And then when people give that kind of expectations of you, the old Charles Dickens novel, when you have great expectations of people,
here we go.
They usually live up to them.
Yeah.
If you don't have any expectations of people, they usually live up to them as well.
Right.
And so that's what I work on, constantly trying to be more polished. But Steve Harvey always jokes and tells me, man, you don't go change nothing, man. The people want you because they want to hear you break it down just like you break it down. And you ain't,
See,
and you always get on me about
see, and for our listeners that are going to be listening to this podcast, what mind concept were you in? Like, what were you thinking to persevere? Like, where was your mind when they would tell you, nah, you can't? Because I'm sure you saw things in your life growing up that were, you know, some rough situations, you know?
Yeah.
So how did you keep, like, in your mind, what were things that you thought that helped you persevere and helped you get through?
You know, my family was very devout. That faith was always tremendous to us, and I think to anybody, you have to have something you believe in that's bigger than you.
Come on.
Divine purpose or individual being that is looking out for you, that when there are challenges, you say, okay, I get it. There are going to be challenges, but I know with my faith, we just got to stay the course. And I think back to my Uncle Jesse, who I was talking about, man. My Uncle Jesse, all the doctors would say that he was an absolute miracle. They could not understand why he was still living. My Uncle Jesse had 2 triple bypass surgeries. He had 3 bypass surgeries. He had diabetes, high blood pressure. I mean, and he had his first heart attack, and I'll never forget. He had to be, I was only 13 years old. I moved to Florida.
13 years old.
Call.
Come on, man.
Maybe he had a heart attack, but he was going to be okay. But he wasn't going to be able to work anymore. And this was the man who, at the Converse shoe factory in my hometown,
right.
He was one of the few African-American supervisors in the plant. He was revered and respected by everybody. And then Uncle JB health just kept going downhill. Yeah. But yet, you never heard him complain about it, man. And he always talked about, because he had the faith of a mustard seed.
Come on.
He said, well, God just trying to have me pass this test so I can be a better testimony for y'all.
Oh, my goodness. See, just tapping into, you said you were 13 years old?
13 years old.
Not that you remember every single thing in that moment. Do you have an idea of how you felt just in that moment, just to hear where you, sometimes people be numb to when they hear stuff.
I know specifically how I felt, because I was a little disappointed that I wasn't in North Carolina, because you always believe, and I don't know what it is about us, that's alpha males and typical males.
Yeah.
If I was there, I could have prevented this.
I did something to help. I get
could have took some of the stress off.
That's exactly how I am.
Because from a little boy, like you said, leaders, my mom, I started taking the burden as a little boy, trying to ease the challenges my mother had to go through as a single parent. And I never forgot that. And that's why one of the reasons when I did get my first ounce of success, the first thing I did was when I bought my mother a house.
Come on now.
You know, and that's what, a lot of us who came from underprivileged backgrounds do, because you want to see the person who gave you so
sacrifices,
some peace, some comfort in life, and so forth. And so with my Uncle JB, it was the same thing. His name was Jesse Baldwin Crump. And so, man, I just remember saying, I should have been home. Maybe I shouldn't have came to Fort Lauderdale because they need me. 13-year-old ninth grader thinking that, hold on, like, you gonna
make a change. Come on, man.
Take care of the whole family.
Come on now. That's a lot of, would you agree that's a lot of weight?
It is, but it goes back to that great expectation.
Oh.
they expected great things from me, and I believed that because they expected it, that I was going to be great. My grandmother would always tell me, "You talking about some pressure, boy? This is some pressure here." My grandmother Mitty, and she was really my great grandmother because my grandmother died when I was 4 years old.
4 years old, okay.
And my grandmother Dorothy Crump had the 11 children. My grandmother Mitty only had 2 children, and but my Mitty was clearly the matriarch of the family. I mean, the sun rose and set.
Her word was.
Her word.
Man.
I don't know if you have a member of your family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody went to my Mitty, and but my Mitty told me, and you talking about remembering things, man. I was like 7 years old, and my mom and them, church was a big thing, and we had the Christmas poems and the Easter poems and the plays and so forth. And I guess at an early age, my mom and them, if you did it good, you got a cake or whatever. They was, being psychologists again.
See, positive reinforcements here, y'all. You do something positive. Here you go. Here you go.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So I would get these long poems and
I was about to ask you that.
So forth, and I would do them, and I guess that's why I became partly a lawyer too. But I would do them in front of our church, and back then, even though it was only 100, 200 members, that was the world to you.
Come on, man.
Up in a little small town, so I give those speeches and that kind of thing, and I was good at it. Everybody wanted to say, "Okay, let's see if Ben Crump gonna mess up on this speech, or he gonna do it."
Come on,
and
man.
I would come and I would nail it and everything. So my preacher, Bishop Bryant, they all started noticing that this young man is gonna be somebody. And my grandmother, talking about pressure, she sat there one day. And she told me all her grandchildren, she got 11, her daughter had 11 children, and now they're having children. So you multiply something like 30 of them and everything. And all of us was impoverished, working in factory, working in tobacco fields and those things. And then we had some demons with alcohol in our family.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And that's why I don't drink to this day. I promised my grandmother I would never drink or smoke cigarettes, dope, nothing like that.
Anything close to it.
Yeah, close to it, despite the Omega's best efforts.
Come on, man.
Because my grandmother always say, I want somebody in our family to be legitimate. I always say that. But then the pressure she put on me, T.Wood, man, you got me going deep, man. My grandmother told me, baby, it ain't fair, but whether this family go up or down, it's going to be on your shoulders. To tell a 7-year-old dad.
Bruh.
Talking about pressure.
You talk about heat. Whoo. So, dang.
But that was great expectations. She was putting it on me clearly that you got to do this.
So I'm guessing at that time, yes, ma'am. And you just went ahead and just rolled with it.
Yes, ma'am. And they rolled with it and said, I ain't going to fail you, Grandma. I ain't going to fail the family.
Dang. See, with that said, I want to touch back on something that you had mentioned, and even thinking about when it comes to alcohol per se. Did you reacted that way of just, you said don't do it and you just didn't do it? Sometimes some people could say something and that's good enough and you roll with it, but then on other cases it could be a situation where you actually see it, experience it from a perspective like, okay, my brothers, with my father, okay, there was a challenge, but my brothers, they saw that and it was, I'm not going to do that. That's not, because they witnessed it, that way. So for you, was it more she just said it and that was good enough, or did?
I think it was a combination of both.
Okay.
Because I think what harkened her statement was the evidence of some of my uncles being drunk and belligerent, losing their jobs, being put into jail off of poor decisions made under the influence of alcohol. And it was hard because, just think about when somebody gets put in jail in a poor family, and if they have the conviction to try to get them out, everybody got to take all the little money they've been saving and so
Just
forth.
to the pot.
Yeah.
Bring it to the pot.
And you're like, hold on, we helping this fool who got drunk and got in trouble, and it's not for helping somebody go to college or helping somebody advance in life. It's to save this person from having a terrible issue with alcohol
Right.
and their decisions.
Right.
And so I just,
Amen.
so I just literally, T.Wood promised my grandmother I wouldn't do it. And you got to remember, when I went to Fort Lauderdale, this was the height of the crack epidemic.
I was wondering if you, okay.
And you know, South Florida was.
I know it all well.
And, but, you know, I think it was that promise to my grandmother even kept me from getting caught up in that whole thing, because, and now a lot of my family members got caught up in it, as many in our community.
We relate.
Yeah. And, but it was sitting there listening to that old woman say, I want somebody in our family to be legitimate. And I was committed to not let her down.
There's, and we'll all hear this more, but there is a slogan that is a part of Triumphant Moments podcast that I created, and it's called Encouragement for Free. Okay, and encouragementforfree.com website created. And so what I ask is that anyone who comes on the show to think back, what is, for all of our listeners, what is some encouragement for free that you can provide right now to all in this, no matter what it is?
You know, and I'm plagiarizing all my family members. All these people who never got to college, never got to law school, never got to these advanced degrees, but as I said, we're some of the wisest people in the world. And, you know, I go back and repeat what my mother said: life ain't fair, life is hard. You make it fair by what you bring to the table. If you don't bring anything to the table, don't expect anybody to let you sit down at the table. And you got to believe that. Then I think often my grandmother, man, that lady, she took out the newspaper subscription when I was 6 years old, even though you remember she only made it to the 8th grade, like the beginning.
I was about, yeah.
So she couldn't really read, but she had something in her that made her take out the newspaper subscription. And then, because I was whatever she chose, she were, after we got to her house and we told her that one thing we learned in school, and everything, she'd give us our dessert. But then we'll take the newspaper out, all her grandchildren sitting there, and me and her mostly doing the reading. And I'm, you know, I'm 7, 8 years old, and we're trying to guess words together.
Wow, come on, man.
But what was so profound about it, you talking about nuggets for free, was in us reading that newspaper and trying to figure stuff out, what she was really doing was showing me that there was a bigger world out there beyond just this little town of Lumberton.
Come on, man.
And it was so deep. It was the Robesonian newspaper, because it was Robeson County, named after James Robeson's people.
Gotcha.
He was a slave, but he came from the Robeson plantation. The county was named Robeson County. And we took out the Robesonian newspaper, and we literally would read it every day. And then I started looking forward to doing it, because we was, back then, President Carter and Mother Teresa, Tony Dorsett and the Dallas Boys, Roger Staubach, and all of them.
Them times.
Yeah, we reading all these things, and I'm thinking, man, I wonder what it's like to go to Irving, Texas, and Cowboy Stadium. You know, you reading the words,
right?
And my grandmother, reading about Mother Teresa. You know, she had won the Pulitzer Prize. I'm not the Pulitzer Prize. She had won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize. Okay.
Many people to this day don't realize what she was so famous for. They were having the war going on, and they had this orphan,
Right.
and she convinced the warring fractions in the Middle East
Right.
to cease fire, and her and a group of nuns walked through the battlefields with faith that somebody wouldn't get a itchy trigger finger. They get killed, and they took like 100 orphans across the battlefield, and it was something that you couldn't write a Hollywood script.
You can't make this up.
People to believe, and so I'm reading about that in my little lumberton saying, "Wow, I mean, the Middle East. Okay, that's interesting. That." They've been fighting for peace in the Middle East all this time, but for that one day, that one little woman was able to convince the whole world to have peace for a greater purpose.
No weapons in her hands and things of that sort, but she still had it within her to cause that kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, and you reading about that kind of stuff. I mean, it was just amazing, man.
And so, in all essence, in knowing encouragement for free.
And so I wanted to just say, if you get a chance, read with your children, read with young people. You don't know
Absolutely.
how you inspire their mind. We don't do that enough.
A gesture.
And my grandmother has such a great impact on my life just by us trying to read the newspaper. And notice I said trying.
Yeah.
Some words we just couldn't figure
Right.
out.
But she exposed you to it,
She
though.
exposed me to it.
Come on.
man. And we put the words in context. Even if we didn't know what that word meant, we read around and we said, okay, it must mean something like
Let's go.
this.
Let's go. Hey, look, that's okay. We're going to go with it.
Yeah.
We're going to go with it. See, so pulling it back, and we're talking encouragement for free. Understand that some of the biggest situations for all the listeners, just to decode and just to break down and summarize what Brother Crump has just said, some of the smallest situations can become the biggest, most impactful thing. From simply just being exposed, making those efforts, that's a big deal to be able to read to your kids. That's a big deal.
Huge.
They don't have to. I think sometimes we tend to wait till they're actually reading full sentences and stuff like that. You think it's better to actually get some kind of exposure up to it, and then over time.
Yeah, and let them figure it out.
Thank you.
And don't give them everything. Because I'm literally now thinking back with my MIDI, and I'm thinking diplomacy. We had no idea what diplomacy meant, but we put it in context.
Come on, man. And it builds confidence.
It builds great confidence.
See?
Man.
That's the thing, man.
It gives you vision.
Okay.
Because remember, vision will get you out of situations, dark situations, when there's no light. You have that vision in your mind that there's going to be a way out.
Wow. So that vision could be kind of your internal compass.
Exactly.
Hey.
Exactly.
So when things get a little foggy, because we're all going to go through some kind of trials and tribulations, but if you have that vision and you getting locked in, understand that, son. You have that vision and you getting locked in, you still going to find a way to press forward, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's great your son is here. We're looking at the future, man. You represent the future for us.
Oh, yeah. And so I want to step to say this. How can, if anyone wants to kind of follow you or any projects or things that you have going on that you want to put out there, social medias?
Certainly. I'm at Attorney Crump on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Attorney Ben Crump, and I get a lot of help with social media from my young
you
people
too?
around me.
You too?
I can't keep up, man.
Man, look, that's all right. We have, tell me this now, you and I are part of one of the greatest fraternities
Absolutely.
On this earth, and you could have chose any other fraternity. Shouts out to Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley. You could have chose any other fraternity, but you chose Omega.
Absolutely, man. There was no choice. My high school coach, my cousins, and my stepfather were all Omegas. And when I got to Florida State freshman year, I knew exactly what I was going to do.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. Went to the interest meeting. We get, Lord, I can't get in trouble since I'm the grand counsel of Omega by now. We had about 40 jokers in the room.
Y'all gotta understand.
With literally 3 people crossed on that line.
Ooh,
That was 40.
ooh, I wish I had that picture. Oh, I wish I had that picture.
And you talking about a great decision.
Come on.
Man, Omega Psi Phi. I know we're getting towards the end, but I gotta say something about the frat. Man, when they teach you all those things about its members versus men, 8.
Come on, man. Thoroughly immersed in the true Omega spirit of far greater assets with
80 men.
with lukewarm enthusiasm.
Man, it's those things there that just take you to the next level. Endure hardness as a good soldier. There are going to be hard times in life, but, tough times don't last. Tough people do. And, that's what the Q's was teaching us.
Y'all better understand that. This is for real. Friendship is essential to the soul. Y'all better understand that.
Exactly. Friendship is essential to the soul.
Sorry about that. Understanding that. Please tell me what you think when you hear this.
Yeah, this is a story of famous dog. When the dog returns this tale, we'll be busy. These are traffic dogs, rhythm dogs, harmonic dogs, house dogs, street dogs, dogs of the world unite, dancing dogs.